Tesla has released its financial results at its Q1 earnings call. During the quarter, it reported $399 million operating income, $420 million net income, $2.2 billion of operating cash flow, and $664 million free cash flow. This contributed to a $433 million increase of cash reserves to a record $37 billion. At Tesla's Q1 earnings call, Elon Musk has reconfirmed plans to introduce a Tesla-owned fleet of Model Y cars providing a publicly available, fully unsupervised, full self-driving service in Austin, Texas in June. He went on to say that Tesla will commence the service with between 10 to 20 vehicles, which after undergoing close monitoring is expected to rapidly increase in numbers as well as expanding to other cities. Indeed it was, and welcome to the program. As is customary, if there is anyone who is new and would like to, is comfortable in doing so, please do unmute and say hello. Perhaps a little bit later. Sorry, I just lost my composure. I had a couple of Vikings that have joined us. Uh, anyway,
When can I have my
great.
Viking hat,
Vikings.
please? I want the Viking hat from the Tesla group, please.
Yeah, I should actually go downstairs and grab. I could have grabbed mine, but that might be a bit
Vikings are
weird.
cool.
Alrighty, who wants to start us off in the discussion, or a question or a comment?
Eric, a comment. Before
Yes,
you
Norm.
start, before you start the news, your audio doesn't come through, and after the news, it doesn't come through. You know, when you introduce the news, there's no audio there. There is a news, and after the end of the outro of the news, your audio is missing. So have a check for next time.
Thank you, Norm, for letting me know. I know what that problem is. It's basically Windows.
Technology. I don't know.
It's Windows 11. That's what it is. Every time you do something major to the computer, it'll mess up its so-called audio cables, which, if you know, you know. They're virtual ones. And yeah, okay. Thanks, Norm. I really appreciate that. Yep, I'll fix that
Just
for
never
next
upgrade
week.
Windows ever again. It's just a huge mistake, you know.
And I went to so much effort, Kent. I had to convert my hard drive into from a MBR to a GBH, no GPT.
Yeah, not too.
Yeah, and yeah. Anyway, it was a story. Thank you very much, Norm, and apologies for everyone in the room and watching on X and YouTube. It won't happen next week. Until the next time. Alrighty, so we've had the big earnings call. Does anyone want to comment on that? Anyone happy? Anyone sad? Anyone in between? Are we all just playing the long game?
Yes,
I
I'm
think
very happy. Sorry, go Pete.
no, I was just going to say, I think your last option in that multiple choice question is the one that most people will tick. But yeah, look, it was always going to be, the financials were always going to be disappointing, and they were even more disappointing than most people expected. But that's sort of yesterday's news. What people were more interested in, I think, is what Elon had to say, and it was nothing. I mean, it was all positive. He's going to devote more time to Tesla now because he'll have to. There'll be, new models coming out in the next 2 months, including the more affordable models. Robotaxi will be on the roads in Austin in June. Lots of other cities in the US by the end of the year, and millions of robo-taxis by second half of 2026. Thousands of Optimus robots doing useful work in the factory, by the end of this year, and millions of Optimus robots by 2030. There they are. So, yeah, everything that he had to say was, I thought, very bullish.
Yeah, except to say, I think the Megapack
Oh, yeah.
energy storage is going to be a real problem that I
Tariffs.
I don't think they really fully explained it. So obviously Q1 was an outstanding performance for their energy division. From memory, I think they had earnings of $4 billion. Think that was right, which is, which is record, even though they actually had less deployments because obviously deployments are lumpy, but their actual earnings from that division are better than ever. But I presume they're not going to have an awful lot of spare LFP batteries for too many megapacks going into the future, because a lot of that stuff sort of gets sent out in waves. And there are the massive Chinese tariffs, or the tariffs on Chinese imports, and all of the batteries for Megapack come from China. So there's going to be a huge dislocation there, at least in the US market. I guess one good bit of news is that, and I do dare say that Shanghai will be working even harder to fully ramp the Shanghai factory, mega factory, to effectively produce as many megapacks as their Lathrop factory has produced,
if not more.
albeit, if not more, albeit going to a different market, which will be basically the rest of the world, including Australia. So that was a bit of a thing where I think the downside was a little bit underplayed, or it wasn't really addressed, because it's a major, major problem, because you just can't afford to double the cost of Megapack in the States.
They did say that they're addressing the issues with their business, and I think they left it at that. So, look, I think, they've been caught unawares with that. But, they did say that as far as tariffs are concerned, there is no, and we've known this, it's not news, but there is no other car maker that's better positioned with its localised production and its vertical integration. And they did say why the results were the way they were. We all know that the prime reason has been the fact that they've had to retool all of their factories all at the same time, and took production offline for several weeks to retool the production lines of the world's best-selling car. And they mentioned that they're not aware of that ever having been done in history of the industry. So they were still selling the legacy Model Y halfway through February, and they've managed to mostly sell out of that. So they did acknowledge that there was some hit to the brand name as a result of some of the nonsense and craziness that's going on in the US. But we all know that the primary reason has been the model, the shift in the production lines. But another bit of good news was that while they did that, they also prepared the production lines for the new models. Mm-hmm. So that was very bullish. So they should be able to hit the ground running with production starting, probably in the next few weeks for these newer models.
Yes, although Lars Moravi did warn that the ramp for those new models, more affordable models, would be slower than originally expected or hoped for. But still, that's progress. And I guess it's right that Tesla didn't want to divulge all the details, because you don't want to Osborne the current models. One thing I thought might be, and not that we in Australia care per se, because we can't buy them anyway, but there was a bit of a portent of difficult times for the S and X, because they did explain that those lower volume products were much more susceptible to tariff costs than the 3 and the Y.
Really, unless you're looking to buy one of those cars, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have any meaningful... The fact that Tesla sold 17,000 odd S, X, and Cybertrucks. I mean, that's less than the 100,000 that they're capable of building in S and X, and the 125,000 they're capable of building in Cybertrucks. So at the moment, those things are really approaching rounding errors compared to the 3 and the Y in particular, of course, which is the main game.
Like you said during the intro, I mean, Q1 is traditionally the lowest selling quarter in the US for cars and globally as well. They did the shift to the new refresh Model Y, took production offline for several weeks, and they still managed to add $400 odd million to the war chest, you know, to make it 37 billion now. So it was something like 2 billion in the, you know, Q4 and similar in previous quarters. But the fact that they still managed to add some to that is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, oh, that's really strange. I just looked up their actual production current installed annual vehicle capacity, and I'm pretty sure in my maths that's 2.35 million.
Mhm.
But I'm sure that Tesla did say, oh, actually, that's right. They did say that what they intend to do with the more reasonably priced models is to actually increase their total production capacity to 3 million vehicles a year without having to build another factory.
Yeah,
So just to build within the lines they already have or the space they have.
but they're talking about 2 million robo taxis a year. So, you know, and they did say that they are already, sorry, not robo taxis, cybercabs, but they are already apparently building them. So
Yes, there's been lots. It was Joe Tetmeyer and others. He took the actual drone photos and imagery, and then some other enterprising people were comparing it to, was it Automation Day or batch?
It's the unbox method.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Yeah.
which special that was. What
it was the one with
event?
the master plan.
That's the jam.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it was it Automation Day or was it
Something.
something like that? And basically, it's the same casting, almost identical. In fact, the modern casting just has a hole in the center of it, which is obviously to save a bit of mass. So clearly, but actually, Lars Moravi did say that they're into beta or B something production, B qualification or something like that. So that's sort of, it's not quite a release candidate, but it's going a fair way down the process of actually verifying the production methods and or production tooling for the Cybercab, which is pretty cool. So, and I think he did say that they would start to make them in a couple of months, only as small run
With-
prototypes.
with
Basically.
volume production in probably Q1 26. So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess one bit of news I didn't really think about it to be honest, but when Elon Musk said, and it was a very late question, it was one of the analysts, which was about the only good question one of the analysts actually asked was, what sort of numbers of robo taxis would there be at Austin at launch? And then, you know, Elon Musk basically said, well, they've done a lot of thinking about it, and it's going to be basically between 10 and 20 initially, which I thought was a little bit low. But then perhaps if you're really starting something from scratch, that's probably quite a lot to have to intensely observe and check out and keep
But-
your risks lower.
But Elon Musk has always said that. He said, we're going to start by tipping our toe in and then, you know, putting our foot in. And, you know, I mean, last earnings call, I forget his exact words. Actually, I probably have them here. I can't find it right now.
He made the post on X a few days ago about the toes.
Yeah. That's the post I was trying to find, the exact wording of it. Here we go. We just want to put our toe in the water, make sure everything is okay, then put a few more toes in the water, then put a foot in the water with safety of the general public and those in the car as our top priority. So, I mean, he did basically say that they're going to go as slowly as they possibly can right at the beginning, but then it's obviously going to ramp up very quickly.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess the thing is, and this was ventilated, Elon Musk did indicate that he thought, at least in certain cities or certain regions in the US, that customer-owned cars could have FSD unsupervised for their own purposes by the end of the year.
Yep.
That's his ambition. And I guess the main thing is, once they know it works, notwithstanding, he did also discuss there might be some slight regional tweaks. He was talking about snow drifts in wherever it snows in America, in the north mainly, compared to California, and saying that, you know, there might be a couple of minor tweaks in the system. But I guess the thing is, once you've proven the system works, it literally is just a software update, or maybe it's even just a software switch that says, you know, ta-da, you can wake up in the morning and you can now use your car unsupervised and fall asleep in it and expect to get to your destination safely. And I mean, that's going to be a massive, and that could involve many hundreds of thousands of cars, if not millions. Certainly the hardware for cars initially, for sure. Although I do wonder, they did also impress on the fact that the Austin robotaxis would have an audio input, so they could listen for emergency vehicles, sirens, and other things, and that customer cars don't have that yet, or maybe the very latest ones do, but not many of them. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe to get the full upgrade, you might need to do a minor hardware upgrade to get a secondary microphone fitted to the car, perhaps. But yeah, it's certainly exciting times. That's for sure. For a long-term investor, if you needed to sell your shares next week or next month or next year, who knows?
Although it did get a bump in after hours, I think the stock was up 4 or 5% during regular trading hours, and then I think it went up about 5% at one stage, finished up about 3.5% in after hours trading.
And as we speak now, on the pre-open, it's at 7% up.
Oh, there you go.
So people are a lot happier. And just for reference, Apple is nearly 3%. So there is a bit of alpha there, but yeah, it's going to be interesting.
You sort of think when they're ready with Robotaxi in Austin, the cars, you know, say they want to put another 100 cars on the fleet or something, they could just get born from the factory and go drive out straight to Austin City and start working straight away. So,
And
they
that's
say
something.
one every 5 seconds. One every 5 seconds, I think.
oh, that's the Cybercab, not the
Yeah.
Model Y.
Yeah,
Not
but
the
yeah,
Model
Not yet. At the moment, I don't think they're anywhere near that.
No.
I think they mentioned that the fastest cycles are in Shanghai, where it's about 33 seconds.
yeah, but
Um,
still,
But yeah, but
5 seconds is unheard of. I mean, 33 is pretty much unheard of until Tesla did that for a single line. But 5 seconds for a single line is
nuts.
nuts, and it can be faster than that, of course. I think Elon Musk said that they're going to aspire to get a C grade in an A plus ecosystem, which will be much better than the top grade in a C class ecosystem, which is all the current production. But yeah, I mean, and to be clear, robotaxi production, the lines haven't been completed yet. I mean, that's something I did explain, that the lines haven't been fully built yet. But obviously, that's what they're projecting for Cybercab. Sorry, yeah, and that's something that Elon Musk actually sort of conceded. There's a lot of confusion between robotaxi and the Cybercab. The Cybercab is that gold-coloured two-seater vehicle, which is going to be a robo-taxi, or sort of was a robo-taxi. But Elon's favourite term for it is cybercab. And then obviously, like they said, all of the robo-taxis in Austin will initially be Model Ys, because they simply just don't have cybercabs ready to produce yet in any numbers. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And of course, it'll be interesting to see. Previously, Tesla had stated that you and I eventually would be able to purchase cybercabs. But probably makes a lot more sense for Tesla to simply not sell them and just deploy them and own them exclusively, because they can make their $25,000 capital investment back in less than a year. And I don't know if there's any company that wouldn't want to do that rather than share that profit with someone else. Unless, of course, they want to have a wider reach where Tesla just hasn't got the resources to sort of have, a local office in some small city that needs to handle, 10 or 20 robo-taxis for the whole place. So it's going to be interesting to see how that sort of all shakes out.
Speaking of robo-taxis, it will be interesting to see so our national legislation, I think it's called the AVSL, Autonomous Vehicle Safety Law. The expectation is that it's going to be passed in 2026. But as we know, politicians, and because there's something like 50 laws that need to be changed. So that will take some time, and no doubt, there will be delays. So, what I'm trying to say is it'll be interesting to see if Australia will be ready by the time the robo-taxis are ready. And if not, then there will be absolutely no excuse, because there's been a lot of false starts. It's probably been delayed by 3 to 5 years. So they can't say that, they had no idea that it would happen that quickly. This has been going on for a very long time. And, if it's because of bureaucracy that this is delayed and needless people die on our roads as a result, there will just be no excuses. So
something that might be an intermediate step is there is no real impediment to having FSD supervised in Australia. So and I think Elon Musk did indicate, for example, because there was talk about, one of the analyst questions was around, would there be differential pricing on the monthly fee for FSD unsupervised as compared to supervised, in much the same way as there's a distinction between enhanced autopilot and FSD supervised. So one good thing that Elon Musk sort of said was that with FSD, I think it was even supervised, that the level of supervision required, the amount of attention it pays to the driver and requires that the driver be paying intimate attention to the road, will reduce in time. So I think he said every few weeks or months they would reduce the intensity of the nag system and the extent to which you have to incessantly pay attention as the system gets safer and safer. So in Australia, since there's no real impediment to having FSD supervised rolled out, well, if you had a watered down version of supervision, then I guess, Pete, you've really got the car doing the driving itself anyway. So you really are getting the safety advantages without having the headline of you can be comatose in the back of your car and it still perform the same function, even though it will. And
the distinction is that you won't be able to take passengers and charge for it as a service.
Oh, yes. But I mean, as fellow Tesla owners, I'm sure most people in the room, if you decided to invest in FSD, even supervised, well, actually, sorry, you just invest in FSD. You always aspire for it to be unsupervised eventually. But I think you're really achieving 98% of the outcome if you can have a very lax FSD supervised, like FSD, mostly supervised or whatever you want to describe it as. And in Australia, Tesla could, no doubt Tesla are doing their very utmost to have that implemented in Australia as soon as possible, because there's nothing in the ADRs that seem to indicate that that technical level of driver enhancement or vehicle enhancement is contrary to any of the ADRs. They don't need new legislation if the driver is still technically and legally in control of the vehicle, albeit, being rather distracted in doing so. And that would be a great outcome for us in Australia. And yeah, there'd be some people who have fleets of cars that might like to have them as robo taxis, but I mean that's the cherry on top, really, isn't it? Well,
Absolutely.
in that sense, I dare say that's actually the cherry that's the golden goose that lays all the eggs, because that's where the real money comes.
With me, I'd just be happy to get some of my money back. But
Yes, I did look. Yeah. Anyway, it's funny because as someone who's going to get a third Tesla, whatever it is, and I'm not going to get FSD straight away, but as soon as I get a sniff that supervisor's coming around the corner, then I will, of course, obviously. But yeah, I agree with you, Pete. It'll be nice to actually
get some money back.
get some money back.
But would you count, the recent posts on X about the larger size of Bank B on FSD as a sniff that it may be coming to Australia?
Oh yes, I'm confident that Tesla is working overtime to bring it to Australia. I just don't know when. But yeah, look, I'd be quite enthused to see, and I think my kids' cars, my two kids' cars that are AI4 cars, Highland and the newer Model Y that's got the version 4 hardware, they have the larger size autopilot stacks. Whereas my poor old 2-year-old Model Y doesn't. So I don't know that's going to get it anytime soon.
I've got a few hardware 3 or AI 3 cars that have got a larger bank.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
And they were before even the latest update. So yeah, I went into service mode, checked, and the bank was larger, and then I did the update, and it still stayed larger after the update. So it's just random. It's probably just
absolutely.
Weeks. Yeah.
Just noticed, Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, guys, just on this conversation, to you guys probably knowledgeable, I want to check my understanding. So I'm talking about the US situation now. So obviously US have a much higher version of 13 than us, and all that's good. But it's my understanding, which could be wrong, hence your comments, that there's also a much better version of 12 for those vehicles that only take the 12 in the US. Do I have a misunderstanding there? And therefore that version of 12 could come here is what I've been making comments on, but I might be wrong, as it turns out.
Yeah, so I think I'm right in assuming that version 12 is basically the capped out version for hardware 3 cars, and 13 is for hardware 4, and 12 is an emulation. It used to be opposite way. 12 used to be the basis. The hardware 4 cars then got an emulated version. They emulated a hardware 3 computer in the hardware 4 architecture. Now they've split the streams. In a sense, version 12 is a stub. They do keep adding features as they can. It's a little bit like those large language models. They can shrink them down to fit into the smaller computer and have very similar results, but not quite as good. So
No version 4 hardwares here have 13 on them.
no. So
That's what I'm
because
saying, is that maybe
yes,
they could put the top of the range 12 in here for all cars, and it would be better than where we are now.
yes, and my biggest lament is it's really important that Tesla gets FSD. Well, this is one thing I don't know. Um, because none of us living in America, none of us have been in America driving a car recently. Is a version 12 or version 13 or hardware 3 or hardware 4 Tesla in the States running on autopilot as idiosyncratic as Australian cars running
I think the
autopilot?
answer is, from the comments I've read, the answer is no, it's much better. I've seen guys making comments that the latest few versions of 12 have really upped the ante for those guys who are running 12 over there.
And
Which must be
that's
the hardware 3 guys.
and that's just using autopilot because they haven't got FSD. Because the question is,
Sure.
in America,
Yes.
have they ported the FSD stack down to autopilot users as like a nobbled down version or whatever you want to call it? It doesn't do, it won't do, it won't navigate at right angles to traffic lights and all that sort of stuff. But as a basic lane keeping thing, does it have the same shadow braking, phantom braking? Does it have the same characteristics of seeing, curved lines and following it, thinking it's the lane, changing and all that sort of stuff? So, I mean, I guess we'll only be able to find out once FSD supervised comes to Australia finally. For those people that haven't got FSD and only got autopilot free with the car, does that autopilot suddenly transform to be something much better behaved? And if it does, I mean, that'll be a truly massive achievement. And I guess that's something we won't be able to answer properly until it finally does land.
Yeah.
And I then would presume if there's FSD brought into Australia, you would have still the split between the hardware 4, hardware 3 cars. Hardware 3 would get 12, version 12, and hardware 4 and higher would get 13, I guess. Alrighty. Any questions from anyone that's recently gotten their car or maybe hasn't even received their car yet? Especially any new sort of questions. And bear in mind, none of them are dumb questions because we all were at the same level of understanding when we first got our cars or first started researching them. In fact, some of us got cars before autopilot really existed. Okay, well maybe not. We'll
So
remember.
just so you know, Harold, the picture behind me, this is my hard drive I pulled out the other day.
That's a rather large hard.
Yep, it's one of the very first hard drives they ever made, and it goes around on a trolley. I don't know how much it weighed, and it was like very small amounts of memory, but just shows where we all came from.
Yes, what I'd love to see is that being spooled up to full speed, and then someone trying to spin it around in a circle and just see it flip gyroscopically off that stand. That would be awesome to see. One thing, I'm just going to try and find the Roro website. Let me just.
Chips.
Okay. So there's a bit of, for those of us that are looking forward to the first batch of Juniper Model Ys, this was the original schedule. Left Shanghai on the 16th of April on the Wisdom Ace. And then the Iris Ace was due to arrive on the 23rd of April, leave on the 26th, and arrive in Fremantle on the 5th of May. So the bad news about that is that whereas the Wisdom Ace did arrive to port, the Iris Ace is still a couple of days away from port. So it is down here and its port is up about there somewhere. So unfortunately, that's going to be a couple of days late, which probably means that it won't arrive in Fremantle until the 7th of May instead of the 5th. So I guess people with the EV rebate compatible rear wheel drive launch Model Ys, you can feel a little bit better that there really is no chance. There just could not be a chance that those cars would ever make it. And that's just what happens. So unfortunately, it looks like that delivery time frame might get pushed out from the 16th to possibly the 18th, starting 16th from now to the 18th of May. But we'll just have to see what happens.
We just have to get the Vikings down the bottom to row harder on the way here.
Indeed, they need to. Yes, they need to put the pedal to the metal. Alrighty. Maybe now, has someone got a question? Or we could do this as a really early night, because I think a lot of us have had an early start to the morning, namely being up at before 5:30.
5:30. That's when it started. No, I was up
True.
way before then. Because you got to read everything, got to get it all, and when it drops, read it all.
Market closed at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Yep. That's when I was up. So,
There you go.
but,
Far
Howard,
too keen.
just a quick steady question. So that picture that you had in your intro with all those Juniper Model Ys lined up, is that a AI image, or is that Glacier Blue, or is that Quicksilver?
No, it's Glacier Blue. I'm just going to find it. News.
Because if that's
Sorry,
blue, that looks fantastic.
images.
Yeah, I like that colour myself.
Yeah, it is fantastic because that's the color I picked and ordered.
Oh,
So by definition, it looks fantastic. Although actually, you could have me. I don't know. I
that looks like
Hmm.
Quicksilver.
It could be Quicksilver. And notice, unfortunately, there's a little bit of a color difference, but that's just because of angles. Because
Yeah.
the slightest angle is going to change the apparent color. Maybe it's silver, Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Maybe it is. So maybe it's the second best color. I don't know, but I did intently.
How
I
long
did
do you
actually.
reckon till performance drops, Harold?
Oh, that's what I was going to ask.
Well, see, I'm starting to think more positively about the Cybertruck. So I'll probably just hold on to the launch edition Juniper and give myself until the end of the year. No, see, the problem is the longer you wait, the more likely it's going to be that if you do something, then the Cybertruck will land anyway. Yeah, Damo, I might not get it. I might not get a performance because, I mean, let's face it, the launch edition does 0 to 100 in 4 point not very many seconds.
Oh,
It's about halfway to the performance.
4
So,
point, I think. Yeah.
sorry, 4 point, would you say, Pete?
No.
Is it 4.2?
Oh, yeah.
that's 4. I'm not sure. Sorry, John's probably
And
right.
and the actual
4.1. Pretty sure it's 4.
4.1.
Yeah.
All right, so it's an old the old F250 Ford 250 engine in cubic inches. So that's fast enough. I mean, how many times does anyone in the room, if they got a performance, literally at the lights, just hammer it? I mean, unless you've got a
Me?
motorbike next door and you're trying to drag off a motorbike.
This
I
is Ron
allegedly don't do that anymore.
So
Harold, you'll weaken.
Come on,
You'll
Paul,
weaken
no
when the
bullshit.
specs come out for the performance.
Definitely.
yeah, but the thing is, I'd love a performance until the Cybertruck arrived, and then I'd just be dropping the performance and not caring. So
What if it's
I'm
got
gonna
cloth seats though? What if the Cybertruck's got cloth seats?
no. Mine's a Cyber Beast.
Cyber
So
Beast.
no,
Okay.
don't you worry about that. It'll be all natural fake leather for me.
Me too.
So to be honest, yeah, I'll probably just get the Juniper, chuck it as a lap, and um,
Trade in.
and then just wait for the Cybertruck, which hopefully will come next year. Fingers crossed. In which case, no, I won't care about my best car will be my next one after this coming one. So
There's a few Cybertrucks here now, isn't there, apparently? So surely they wouldn't be
yes,
sending Cybertrucks here if they're not going to come here. Surely.
well, there's. I mean, look, Tesla's country director Tom Drew has openly stated in several media interviews that Tesla Australia are doing everything they possibly can to bring the Cybertruck properly to Australia. So, and a thing that sort of heartens me a little bit is, if you look at Tesla's production capacity, it's 2.3 million. Off the top of my head, I know the Cybertruck production capacity is 125, greater than 125,000 units, and the S and X production line is capable of 100,000. And yet, if you annualize last quarter's production, that's an annual figure of 68,000 cars between the three models. So clearly, they are selling vastly fewer Cybertrucks than the production capacity. Now, logic just says, in fact, it's actually true, and that was one of the explanations of Tesla's reduced earnings last quarter, was that because production was down because of the fact that they were changing over production lines for the Model Y, that reduction of 100,000 units really affected the amortization, like your costs such as depreciation and amortization, because you're amortizing it over less numbers of vehicles to offset it. So it's in Tesla's interest to up the production of the Cybertruck to as close to that 125,000 per annum as they possibly can, because that's the only way they can fully utilize all of that capital, which is depreciating. So it just makes sense for Tesla to add incremental volume to Cybertruck. And what a great way to do that. Or there's no better way to do that, or at least to help do that, by launching it in Australia and Thailand and other places. But of course, us Australians don't care about the rest of the world. We just want Australia first and bring the Cybertruck here, please. And, perhaps it's just a matter of when and not if, or the reverse. It's one or the other. So obviously we'll find out.
I can't wait to see it on the road here.
It'd be great, especially I forget what the spec is on the Cyber Beast, but it's 3 point, not 100 is, no, it's
2.7 seconds.
2.6 in 0 to 60 miles in it. Yeah.
So 2.7 for 0 to
Yeah,
100, I think.
for
Is that
Australia.
right? Because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the one, yeah, you got the extra roll there. Yep, I can't
So
wait till I'm sitting in it for it to ask us anything. My own Cyber Beast.
Well,
Harold,
Pete didn't invite you for a drive when he took one for a drive, Paul.
No,
well, what was that demo?
I said, didn't Pete invite him for a drive when Pete took one for a drive?
no.
I did not take one for a drive, unless you're talking about my little remote control one.
I don't think, actually, that's interesting too. I don't think any YouTubers in Australia, even the ones that consider themselves famous, have driven a Cybertruck in Australia. There've been mine workers that have, but like at Liontown, and I mean, we all saw that on our Facebook that someone put on there, that Cybertruck was sideways, and if it weren't for the skill of the driver, or possibly the stability control of the Cybertruck, that video could have ended very differently. But yeah, no YouTubers or other sort of Teslaratis have taken it for a drive in Australia, and very few have even sat in it. Oh, except for the Melbourne and Sydney car shows, I think, and people did get to sit on those times. And hopefully Cybertruck will return to Perth for a proper sit-in experience, which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, let's hope.
Indeed. Alrighty. Any questions or comments? Or do we get to go to bed a bit earlier? That would be a less than 1 hour on an Ask Us Anything. That would be a shock to the system.
Harold, I've just noticed Chuck pop up, so I'm not sure if he's got any news.
Oh, yes, Chuck has. Sorry, Chuck. Chuck has
Surfaced.
popped up, has surfaced.
That's right. Just
yes.
to mention the Cybertruck, just made me. I thought it might be worth mentioning. There are a couple more in the country, or a few more in the country, because one of them is coming back to Tassie in a couple of weeks for a week.
Oh, fantastic!
So if we're getting it, there's a good chance there'll be another one in Western Australia in the not too distant future. Yeah, we had the first dealer new Model Ys arrive on yesterday.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to have a club display thing tomorrow night.
Fantastic.
What colours, Chuck? What colours?
They've got the ice blue, or whatever it's called.
Glacier
the new
blue.
one.
Yep.
Glacier, ice glacier, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a red one and a black one, I think.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Glacier blue in real life yet?
I have. I popped in yesterday to have a look. Yeah. How
does it look? It's not like a light baby elephant blue. It's more like a.
It's probably more silver with a blue tinge, like a significant blue tinge. But it does look good. Yeah. I might just be saying that because it's a rare color, I guess, but for Teslas. But it does look very similar to the BYD blue that you might have seen BYDs in around. Yeah.
Yeah. So that BYD blue is like a shark color almost.
Is it? It was lighter, but anyway,
if you look at it in a shadow or in light that's not direct sunlight, it looks a bit more like the car itself, the shark.
Okay.
But yeah,
the one I saw was it was indoors, so I didn't get it in the sunlight. The red and the black ones are outside. I think it was red and black. One might have been red and dark grey. I'm just gonna jump on my photos and have a look. Yeah, there's a red, and it was I think it was more of the looks like dark grey. The midnight, not midnight grey. But what do they call it? Slate grey.
Stealth grey.
Stealth grey. That could be it. Yeah.
Stealth grey. That's it. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I might as well hold the picture. Oh, that doesn't work, does it?
Of your face. and then it'll pick it up.
It's blocking out. That's all right. I'll pop it in the chat.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so that's
awesome.
So they arrived today. Yesterday. Next week, one or two of them are going up to AgFest, which is this sort of rural show in the north of the state, and that's when the Cybertruck's arriving. So they'll both be there, and then the Cybertruck will come back down to the showroom for another week or so after that. So the fact that those are coming to us means you'll probably see them over there at some point, sooner rather than later.
What happened then?
Yeah, well, I'll be driving back from Adelaide, going across Nullarbor. I think it's the 17th or 18th. So it'd be ironic if to see the Cybertruck on the back of a car mover again.
I was going to say, is it the second time?
That would be the second time if it happens. So that would be kind of awesome. But I'm not holding my breath. But you never know. You never know.
Now Now we know why that ship got delayed by 2 days. Now it all makes sense, Harold.
Dearie me. Well, I guess the thing is, if I don't get to see it on the 18th or 19th, I'll have to start another lap once the Juniper arrives anyway, which is probably going to be the week after that. So
That's it.
we'll see what happens. That's anyway.
So are you doing the trick again where you take off as soon as it arrives for a lap?
Yeah, I won't do a Pete and me. I won't reprise what we did, which I think we got our cars at Tessa's great generosity on the Friday, and we left on the Sunday morning early.
Right.
So we really had the car for less than 48 hours. I
Yeah.
guess it was 36 hours. Yeah, I might just, I actually want to sort of protect this one a little bit more. I've got to carry my blue box around, which is the portable DC charger, because you just can't trust some of the chargers around the place. Oh, actually, speaking of which, and I should have got this out early in the program, but John Edwards gave me a ring a couple of days ago, and I'm not sure if everyone's aware that a while ago there was a problem at the Majura Pass temporary charger site. It's a diesel generator running canola oil, and it had a problem whereby the control panel blew up, and obviously was a major failure. John had to go and replace it with a new one. Brought the other one back, worked out that it had basically killed blown a protection diode on the board, and what's happened that it's all sort of made sense now, because there were over voltage warnings for the battery, the 24-volt battery system, the starter motor battery, and it's going over voltage. So what John's worked out is the regulator in the alternator has failed and is basically unregulating the charge voltage, which is overcharging the battery and overcharging everything basically, or overvoltaging everything, overloading everything. So there's a gentleman that's taking a new alternator out to Majura Pass. I think he's leaving this weekend, and he's going to see if he can install that alternator. I guess the call out is, if there is anyone who is planning to be on their way across the Nullarbor going eastwards in the next week or so, actually, if you could please give me a call on 62623131. That's Tokwa's helpline, just to indicate that you are going across, because if this person who is going across isn't successful in changing the alternator, then maybe someone else can give it a go on the way. Unfortunately for me, I'll be going the long way, so I won't be passing through until like the 19th or so of May, which is in about 3 and a bit weeks time, 4 weeks time. So 3 weeks. So yeah, so if anyone is going across, please do let me know. Or you can just send an email to secretary@tocwa.org.au, and we'll see if we can get this thing fixed. I'll make sure I do that call for next week's Ask Us Anything, because I think that'll be the last one for a couple of weeks, because there'll be a hiatus for at least a week while I go on this little lap. Although I might do an episode with you, Chuck, at the same time. Actually, strangely enough, it would always be the same time, wouldn't it? Just be later for us.
Yes.
From Melbourne, via Melbourne, in Wednesday fortnight or whatever it is, in through or whatever.
Hey, Harold, you might want to put up Chuck's photo that he put in the chat. Because a picture speaks 1,000 words. So you can see what he was describing when he described that glacier blue as having a silvery tinge to it.
So that's not glacier blue. No, that's not.
No, the glacier blue was inside the showroom, and these are the other two ones that they had. I didn't take a photo inside the showroom for some weird reason, but Yeah, they just got 3 of them. I think they're all rear-wheel drives. Not quite sure about that, but
Looks awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, neither of them are the launch edition. Sorry, this one is definitely not the launch edition.
Yeah.
Don't know about this one, because this one's got the 20-inch wheels. So it probably isn't, because it doesn't make any sense to have launch editions as showroom cars, because
that's right.
you can't order them anymore. So
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah, these are going to be test drive cars. These ones.
yeah, so they'll definitely be standard, whether one's a rear wheel drive and one's a long range is
Yeah,
possible.
I think what the showroom manager said was that they're all rear-wheel drives, but
Yep.
you would think there'll be one long range in there to show off to people. But yeah, I was only there very briefly, but I'll have a longer look tomorrow night.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, well, even if you can get a couple of photos of the night, and then you can always put them up next week if you're around.
Yeah.
Which would be cool, because that's obviously something we're looking forward to. I did have indication that there is a ship coming to Perth. There is a separate shipment, an earlier shipment for showroom cars and test
Right.
drive cars, and I think that's due to arrive at the end of this month.
Yeah.
So it'll be a few days before the all the customer cars. So yeah, hopefully Perth will have some Junipers to sit in the following weeks, in the coming weeks.
Oh,
And
speaking of sitting in, I forgot to mention before that the Cybertruck that's coming to Tassie will let people sit in it. So again,
fantastic.
expect when you get it too.
Yeah, look, and that's going to be
well,
that's going to be a resurgence of people, including yours truly, that will want to sit in it again. Just to, yeah. I don't know whether you can buy. We need to look on Temu or something and see if you can get. I don't know how you describe it. You put on like goggles that just reverse everything, so everything from the left is to the right. So we could like sit. We could sit in the left side of the Cybertruck and just imagine that we're. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. I think I'm struggling to sort of see the pot of gold at the bottom of Mike's rainbow there. So I just don't know whether the pot of gold's on the left side or the right side. Cool. So Chuck, have you got any charging news or anything that you've come across?
I don't think
Tesla-wise, or
there was a bit of news that came out of Central Queensland last week. You might have heard about it. Yeppoon Council, that's near Rockhampton.
Yep.
They had a vote to postpone or cancel or postpone the installation of a fast charger in that town because the mayor was concerned about the production of nickel. Now, where do you think that info came from?
God.
I know. And
Leah Bartlett, that's where that came from.
That's right. And that vote to postpone passed 4 votes to 3 on the council. And then there was a massive uproar when that news came out across the country. People were emailing the council. They were hassling them. They basically told them, some more politely than others, told them they were being crazy. And 2 of the councillors who were supportive of the fast charger have organised to have a second vote on it tomorrow.
Very good.
Basically all the the realistic view of the situation, which we all know, is a bit more in the public eye now, and the council's going to re-vote. So we will see. I just noticed James posted the article link in the chat there. Tells you a bit of a story about it.
So that's on the Driven.
Yep, that's it. Yeah, so they that'll give you the full story. But effectively, the funding was going to come from the state government anyway, so it wouldn't have cost the council anything. But they still, the mayor still decided they should show their concern for human rights and the environment by postponing it. So
Shit.
That's one of the first physical impacts of that stupid story.
Mm.
Which, I mean, I look, I just wish that Tesla would lawyer up and sue Channel 7 for what is patently misleading, a misleading story.
Yeah.
Effectively, I mean, just because there's a tiny slither of scintilla of minute truth that in fact, whether it's tons of nickel have gone into an EV battery or something is kind of irrelevant. It's sort of like saying that, there's dirty oil. Like if oil comes from one country, it's dirty, and if it comes from another country, it's clean. The fact is that it's going to get consumed anyway somewhere. Yeah. So even if you could assure that every single bit of dirty nickel, and bearing in mind, the fact that it's mined in such an appalling way is not a fault of the customer who buys the nickel or uses it to produce stainless steel or any other product or catalyst or whatever. Yeah. It's actually the responsibility of the country in which it's, it ought to be illegal to allow things like that. But you can't blame an EV as a genre or type of transportation for that sort of thing. I mean, otherwise you don't have to look very far towards the so-called Democratic Republic of Congo, where most of the world's cobalt is sourced. Yeah. And bearing in mind, the biggest user of cobalt is, I think it's the petrochemical industry.
Oil refining. Yep.
Yeah, where they use it as a catalyst, but obviously it partially gets consumed, and more cobalt is used in the production of fossil fuels on an ongoing basis than in any EV batteries.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's appalling. It's a little bit like.
Sorry, make it.
And it's a little bit like, you get some naive strata bodies
Moron.
Where people will get a bee in their bonnet and say, oh, we don't want EVs to park in our underground car park because they're a fire risk, and silly statements like that don't have any real basis in reality, but it's a great story to tell if you want to sort of signal that virtue.
But in terms of the actual factory, which Ian Bartlett went to great lengths to jump out of his car and do a 5-second piece in front of, that facility produces only dirty nickel, and dirty nickel does not actually, the terminology is to do with the grade of the nickel, in that it's not pure enough to be used in EVs. So, yes, it is dirty nickel, which means that it can't be used in an EV. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it certainly is frustrating, like you said, Chuck. That's the first tangible, albeit ridiculous, but the fact is there's $320,000 of funding that, is it right? There's a bit of a time limit to that.
Yeah. So
if this decision isn't overturned, then that funding is definitely at threat.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the silly thing is, these so-called dirty EVs have already been built because these chargers are there to charge cars that exist today.
Yeah, that's
and
right. Yep. Yeah,
I mean,
it's obviously someone who was anti-EV to start with, and they were just looking. They were just hunting for an excuse. They were looking for something they could pin it on to make them look good.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing about that town of Yeppoon is, I don't want to cast aspersions or anything, but that is Matt Canavan's electorate. So no connection there, I'm sure, but yeah.
I think too much fossil fuels in their water there or something.
Something I wasn't going to mention, but I'm pretty sure this is correct, and I please, if I'm incorrect, do correct me. But unless I'm severely mistaken, I thought I heard on tonight's ABC News that one of the political parties has promised to repeal the EV rebates, federal EV rebates. Now, that's what the statement was. The only rebate I'm aware of is the FBT exemption or zero rating for EVs.
I think
So,
they rolled back on that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
It was
it was
mentioned
going
and
to,
it was, yeah.
and then they retracted.
oh, because this was just in tonight's news.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Oh,
Liberals.
okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
then they were, and then so.
Oh, maybe we'll get clarification of that for next
Oh,
week's
hopefully they
program.
don't get voted in anyway. The morons. My opinion.
Oh, we'll try and stay politically agnostic, but
Yeah,
mainly
exactly.
on policies.
It's a bit
Oh,
hard to EVs, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is a bit hard to do with EVs, but
Yes.
Mike, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so on the subject of slightly questionable TV things, so on the old Idiot Channel 7, there was a thing about you can't get out of electric vehicles if the battery's off article. Don't know whether any of you saw that last night, I think it was. And
Oh,
I was
there's some stupid people
I
out
was
there.
I
chucking
saw a
rocks at the
snippet of that
TV.
Paul Merrick guy again.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, I was chucking rocks at the TV when he made this statement, because he made a very incorrect blanket statement initially, which was subsequently correctly corrected by the lady who spoke. But is it my understanding, is it correct that, if you're in a serious crash, the main HV battery will cut itself and that, but the 12-volt battery will stay up? Is that right?
Correct. So there is there is at least one pyro fuse. There could be two. I think there's two actually in the HV pack. As soon as you have an airbag deployment, so any impact that triggers just one airbag to deploy, it simultaneously sets off the two pyro fuses, which physically isolate the high voltage pack, which then means that the 12/15, 16 volt, let's call it 12 volt battery, no longer gets charged, but is obviously still very much connected and stays connected, unless of course the entire front of your car has left the vehicle or something. But
you don't
it's
need
absolutely
it all, then?
No, well, that's right too. And all Model 3s and Ys of all flavors have a mechanical front door handle, which Tesla does advise please don't use it because it doesn't withdraw the glass out of not the frame of the car, but basically the top part of the car. So please don't do it normally as a normal function. Do press the button. And in the rear, I'm pretty sure, although of course, if you're a first-time passenger, you're not going to know this, but there is a grab cable in the rear door in the pocket.
So this is
that
where
you can
I had
mechanical.
It's
sorry
pretty
to interrupt you, Harold. So this is where I had to go and check. So yes, you're right. For more recent vehicles, is the understanding, and it said that, as I say, a lady came on and corrected it all. But my vehicle, which is a 22, does not have the rear pull string.
I'm about 23.
Yeah. So,
yep.
But as I just had to go through the logic in my engineering head, I'm going, well, the 12 volts likely to be up, so you can still get out of the rear, because they literally said you're trapped in the rear while your car's on fire or some other random thing.
So why don't you get out the front? So why not crawl towards the front?
Oh, well, you can argue that there could be old people and all the rest, and that's not possible in the back. There's a scenario there. But the reality is the buttons will work because the 12 volts up.
Yes, is active.
If you can't actually get out that, if that doesn't work, that door's smashed anyway, and you ain't going to be getting out of it anyway.
The other thing too is if you're if you're a parent of small children, you will
Yes.
have the child lock, and ordinary polluting fossil fueled vehicles have mechanical child locks, so that once you enable them on the inside of the door before you close it, you cannot open that door anyway. So the fact that there are cars driving around with inoperable rear doors from the inside is not new. In fact, it's a
Yeah, so
very
this
old
was a
thing.
loophole about the fact that, rescue people can't open it from the outside if the battery's off and all the rest of it, right? So, what was annoying for me though was that they sort of briefly mentioned this is a loophole. It covers all EVs that are around, but they only talked essentially about Tesla, other than the odd statement, this covers all EVs. And they had some, I don't know, politician or regulator person on who said, well, the new regulation we're going to bring in says that all the buttons must be available for 5 minutes or something, after, as you say, like an airbag deployment or something. Well, I'm going, yeah, the 12 volt covers all this, right? Seriously, people.
I guess if they had to, within the limit, what you could do is have a supercapacitor,
Of course.
diode isolated. So for anyone that's electrically minded or whatever, you basically then make sure that this supercapacitor, and bearing in mind you can get some astoundingly high values of supercaps. Like, I just couldn't believe they're like 10,000 farads. And that's a massive amount of capacitance.
Yes, it is.
But you can
Don't
basically,
touch that.
no, you can have a super duper capacitor that's charged up to the 15, 16 volts, diode isolated, local to each of the two doors, or sorry, the two back doors, because the front ones do have mechanical latch override, and problem solved. It might cost $10 a door or probably less than that actually, and
I mean, it's there
then
now.
there's an out. Notwithstanding
Just
all the
annoyed
other
me that
interesting.
they just did the Tesla bit, and it just puts people off Teslas and that, because they think, oh, this is a Tesla issue, and the half-assed statement that it covers all VVs and blah blah blah. It's just annoying, and I'm not a fanboy of anything at all. I mean, I joined this to gain information for you, but I look at, having been an auditor, I'm skeptically impartial to everything. You can't trust anyone, basically. So you learn that very quickly in the auditing when you've seen people trying to cover up stuff. So, it's just so bad. And I went on to where Channel 7 is these days, because Channel 7 used to be reasonable. But it turns out that, Kerry Stokes, the funds now for Channel 7 are coming from, shall we say, some less than ideal sources, and so hence their news flavoring. And it might not have been that individual about the nickel, what was his name you were mentioning before, it could have been
Liam
the
Bartlett.
editorial policy coming from the higher ups, right? He's just the presenter. So this is the problem with a lot of this mainstream media, is that their money's coming from questionable sources. And you can look it up yourself. You don't take my, again, being audited, don't take my word for it. Look up where the money's coming from that feeds Channel 7. And I imagine the others are the same. ABC notwithstanding, of course.
Yeah, indeed. Trev, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hey, I finally got to stretch the legs on the car last week. Went for a bit of a spin down to Esperance. I think it's the first time the car's made it about 500 k's from home, even though it's already racked up. Well, I think we're up to 40,000 in the last 8 months or something. But I was a bit surprised on the way home, punching in home on the nav, and it really could only find all the Tesla superchargers, and the third-party ones that it did seem to find were all in really weird places, such as Mandurah and whatnot. And I thought that's anywhere nearby. I wonder why it picked those ones. And then even if you, I think it tried to go to Albany and then Kojonup, and if I deleted Albany and added in Jerramunga, it's it acted as if it's not going to get any charge, and then you get 50 kilometres from Jerramungup and it starts preheating the battery because it knows that there is a charger. I thought, geez, this system really could still use a bit more refinement.
Yeah, it's actually something that Tesla is aware of. There's an issue with the way they actually populate the charger locations on the user interface on the screens, and they initially had to try and resort to manually entering in. This is all to do with non-Tesla, non-superchargers.
Yeah.
So non-Tesla fast DC chargers, and they for a little while were resorting to trying to manually verify locations and details and that sort of stuff. It's something they are working on. So they're definitely acutely aware of it, and we're not the only place. Basically, most locations on the eastern seaboard suffer a similar issue. Of course, for WA, South Australia, and I guess more remote places in Queensland, it is a more pressing issue because there aren't the ubiquity of superchargers everywhere. So look, they are aware and they are trying their best to solve that problem.
Yeah, I did try to use a better out planner when we were in Esperance for the trip home, but I missed the setting about where you had to go select the extra plugs. It's sort of because I thought I did see that it selected CCS on there already, but I didn't realize it was Tesla CCS. So I had to pick third-party ones. Once I did that and I got home, I thought, oh, actually, this app's a pretty good one, and had a bit of a play with it. So I wish I had got that up a bit earlier and tried it on the way home. But just using the car nav. I was a little bit disappointed, and I thought, oh, hopefully they're still working on it. So it's good to know that they are.
Yeah, that they definitely are aware of it, and they are doing their best to address it. Absolutely.
I did catch a little bit of last week's session, and I heard the little bit where you were saying that Halls Creek's back up. And after the meeting had ended, I jumped on PlugShare and was looking at something else and noticed it hasn't actually had any fantastic reviews yet. There's been, I think, 3 added, but they've only been on the Type 2. So, and the third one doesn't actually, the latest one, while it sounds like a positive review, there's no high speed there. So ChargeFox is still showing that all of them are available, but it'd be nice to see someone go through there and say that they'll get 100 kilowatts plus.
Yeah, unfortunately, Jacqueline, whose handle is Jack Frost, she didn't actually say what the charge rate was. Look, I do presume, actually, given that I think, the one beneath it here was 3.7 kilowatts. That I actually contacted Horizon Power straight away the next day actually, and let them know, and then they fixed it later that day. So that power level was fixed. That's just a known configuration error. Jacqueline, on the 23rd, her last check-in is a little bit mysterious. It said that the main complaint was plugged in and it basically worked automatically.
Yeah. Not a bad problem to have.
I don't know why they had to
speed.
No speed, but I do presume that it was full speed. I don't know why she says that it did automatically, but they had to remotely restart me, and I had to call back to end the session. I don't quite know why it would need to be restarted. It's a bit weird, and also for her to say that she had to ring them to disconnect the session. I do believe that she literally just bought that Kia in Darwin, and her very first trip was to have a holiday at Exmouth, which is what all EV new owners should do, is undertake a 4,000 kilometre return trip in your EV when you first get it. So maybe she wasn't aware that, I'm pretty sure the key is you can actually internally stop the charging session. So that could have saved her a phone call, but But look, I'll suss it out. I'm leaving Perth on the 4th of May, and I'll be in Halls Creek 2 or 3 days later, the 6th, I think, of May. So I'll suss it out. But I'm pretty confident it's at full power because that setting was fixed the very next day.
Right, we're not going
So,
up there for the start of July, so we should
oh,
hope
don't worry. I would have gone past there
a few times.
twice. I would have gone past there twice, Trev. So it'll all be good. And fingers crossed. What I'll do too is, unfortunately, there's no photo, but the main screen has been
Disabled.
removed and disabled and blanked off with a metal plate. So that's one source of vandalism that won't occur. And hopefully the rest of it will just be left alone because that site will be a lot less interesting than it was before with its bright light. So I guess time will tell.
Just one last quick one. We did get sort of, because we use so many chargers down there, we didn't realise how annoying the feature is with our charger that it doesn't have the button to stop a charge and to unlock. Now that we've used all the chargers on our trip, we thought, geez, that's actually really convenient rather than having to lean in and hit the screen or have to get our phones out and open the app up. Is there a device that we can hang in our garage, like a dongle, or is there something that generates that Bluetooth or whatever signal it is that the buttons create that unlock the car, and we could just leave it next to the garage door opener?
Yes, there might be stuff on Temu or whatever that can do something like that, or you can use a sexy button, or on just vehicle accessories.
Obviously, on the wall connector or the UMC, you'll have that circle button on top of the connector that you just hold down for a couple of seconds. And
Yes, something that would replicate that, Pete, because ours isn't a UMC. Ours is, I think ours is In Charge X. But I thought if there's something that replicates the same signal and we could just mount it on the wall, we could open up the garage door and press that and pull the cord out.
I mean, one alternative, it's portable, is a Model 3 or a Y key fob, although they're not cheap. And I actually got one myself.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, excuse me. I've actually got one myself because I was used to using a similar fob on the Model X, because that was the only way, that still is the only way on the old X's and S's to actually unlock or lock the vehicle. Okay. Sorry, you can use your app, but you can't, they don't have phone keys. So you've got to actually consciously use your app. Now, with these fobs on the 3 or the Y, you just press and hold the boot button for 2 seconds, and that will act to either open the charge port door when it's closed, or it will stop a charging session if there's a plug of any kind plugged into it, whether it's DC, AC.
Yeah.
So that's $235 on Tesla's shop. And that's an alternative.
Leaning in and pressing the screen.
It's a lot, because I just keep the fob in my pocket. It's sort of as a substitute for keys. I don't carry keys anymore, but I do keep the fob. And the good thing too is there's also on the front where the Tesla logo is, if you press that, that'll crack the bonnet.
Yeah.
So you don't, and there's also a button at the top whereby you can lock or unlock the car. I never use that because my phone key does that quite well. Although I guess you could always say it's like a emergency spare or something like that. But the killer app is pressing and holding the boot button will unlock the charge port, whether that's to unlock it when it was closed or to unlock it, which is basically stopping a charging session and basically unlocking the plug.
Yeah, I see James has just put a link up. I'll looks like it's a
electronics. You can do it yourself, apparently.
Yeah.
It's a UHF transmitter. Yeah. So if I remember, open charge port. Yeah, it's basically a UHF transmitter that as long as it's got a correct format, it'll work.
Perfect.
Leanne, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi. I bought a Model 3 in December and I'm loving it. Last week though, my back window broke the the rear piece of glass. So it's got an impact mark, but on the outside there's no impact at all. It's the inside the impact is. Is that how it's designed? Or I have no idea how it happened.
So do you mean to say you've actually got like a little, you can actually see like on the inside, like a little divot, like a chip or something on the
Yeah,
inside?
yeah, and you can feel it. I can put the picture up.
Yeah, please do.
Chat.
Windows windscreens and rear windows, they're like eggshells. They're a lot weaker on the inside than the outside, basically because of the curvature. Although this sounds like something's impacted it. It could be, God, I mean, it'd have to be something fairly pointy, like hard. So it'd have to be probably metal of some sort and quite small to actually chip it. The thing is, I think the back laminated. I'm not sure if the back window is laminated or not.
Is this the windscreen?
No,
Like the
No,
back
it's the back
windscreen?
windows.
the back one. Sorry, it's a terrible picture, but
Yeah, I'll just bring it
Okay.
up as soon as it loads.
you can see the
I'll
impact
bring it.
like it's spider webbed out, and it's
Oh wow, no, that is definitely that is. I mean, you can see that's a central point.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look,
But the outside, there's not a mark on it. On the
so
outside,
when you actually run your fingernail over this, you can feel it's chipped, like it's
on
actually
the
chipping.
inside, yeah, on
Yeah.
the inside, but not the outside.
Wow.
So just absolutely weird, and I have no idea how it happened. I hadn't noticed.
No.
As
It
far
may
as
well
I
have
know,
hit from the outside because of the lamination, so it's deformed on the outside and fractured on the inside.
yeah,
I
I
did
can't
think
see
about
it on
that.
anything.
Have you got a Century event or anything? No.
No, there's no Century events, and I have it on all the time.
Okay.
All I can think of is perhaps someone was mowing. I park at work, and a lot of grass around, and they mow all the time, and whether they've mowed and something's hit it. And I don't know that Century View would actually give you a warning of that, because obviously it's come from afar.
So, and when you run your fingernails over that, that's completely smooth. The outer glass is
Yeah.
completely unbroken.
Absolutely, and there's not even a divot. There's nothing on the outside.
Geez, I mean, Mike, I mean,
And
you
there's
did
nothing on
suggest it's
on the
possible that you
inside?
could. No, yeah, there is. There's a divot on the inside. So the inside has definitely got glass missing, which is the most likely explanation is something has hit it from the inside.
I drive by myself. I'm the only one ever in the car.
No, that's from the
Then the only
outside.
other explanation is it was an outside hit, and as Mike suggests, oh geez, it's a 1 in a million because of the shape. Gee, it's I don't look clearly. It's an impact. It's not
You know what I
okay.
reckon?
So
I reckon
if you flexed the entire, say there was somehow some gross movement of the car, like it wasn't stiff or something, you wouldn't get this concentrated tracking from one central point. So clearly something's happened at this point and radiated out. It's not like it's gone from an edge and then
No.
split across.
No.
You know, like
You
yeah,
had
that's
a program a couple of weeks ago that showed, I think, on the edge.
Can I
so.
can I
Leanne, you
throw
know
in
where
two
this
bobs?
mowing is. Oh, sorry.
Can I
yeah,
throw in
go
two
on,
bobs?
Shane.
Yeah, go on, Shane.
It looks a lot like the chip I've got in my window of my house. This is a Model Y, you said, right? So the glass lifts up when you open the back of the car, right?
3. No, the
It's a
grass
3.
No.
Oh, okay. I retract my comment.
So
Yeah,
what,
I thought that at first too, and then I went and checked, and no, the glass is stationary. It's all the
Yeah,
one
yeah. No, it's the
goes
same
up
as
the roof.
same as mine.
so this is speculation, Leanne. If I'd had to say, something hard and round has hit that, and the only thing that comes to mind, other than people firing ball bearings at your car, is a honky nut, as we used to call them, or a large gum nut. So are they? Do you see those? I don't know what you call them. Less than a large marble-sized gum nut on trees, and then the lawnmower guys flick one
Yeah.
up. That would cover it nicely.
Yeah, definitely possibility.
Or a golf ball.
Yeah. Does anyone practice
Yeah.
golf in that
Or do
park?
it.
No.
And also, since that's a line over your defroster line,
Yeah.
so that won't work.
No.
You
I
know,
know.
because once they have a break across one, then the system will actually not have it. So, because
Yeah, I'm
I
getting
actually had
getting
that with my car many years ago, where it
yeah.
was in the middle. But yeah, so they had to replace the whole windscreen at the
Yeah,
back.
Tesla are coming out next Monday and
Yep.
replacing it.
Have you got a windscreen policy on your insurance?
Yeah, I do.
So it should
good.
cover the back window as well.
I'm hoping so. I'm waiting still to hear from them because of the long weekend.
Yeah, right.
Make it a bit longer.
Fingers crossed.
Excellent. I just have a second question.
Yes.
I wanted to order one of the Bromac spare wheels because I wanted to go away in a couple of months. I have 19-inch wheels on mine. For the Model 3, it says 18-inch on the site.
Totally
Is
fine.
that still okay?
Yes. So as long as you order the Model 3 wheel as opposed to the Model Y wheel, it will then fit all Model 3s.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to ask before I bought it, obviously.
Yep, absolutely. So your 19-inch wheels, they're just the alloy wheels rather than the aero wheels. That's just more a cosmetic sort of thing. The spare doesn't care about that, or the car doesn't care about the spare being different.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Phipps.
No worries. But yeah, sorry to hear about that glass. That is really strange.
sad.
That's really interesting. The other thing is, if it could have been a honky nut thrown by a mower, it could also have been a meteorite, because it does happen. Does happen. And if you find it, keep it.
Yeah, it's got some nickel in it.
Unless it's one of those stony ones, or it could have some organic compounds in it.
Yes.
Or it could be from Mars or even the moon. Wow, that's really interesting. All right. Any other questions? Hopefully, maybe happier questions than that one.
Just talking about what Pete posted about the number of EVs in suburbs. It was interesting to see no one got stuck in long queues on the Easter weekend. A beautiful weekend, thousands of EVs on the road, traveling everywhere, and there's a queue of I think 3 at Eton. We didn't all grind to a halt in our EVs.
There was a queue at Margaret River, the 3 fast chargers, the 3 slow chargers, and still one car waiting.
Oh, one car.
So
Yeah, no,
one car. Yeah.
And as soon as that person just was there for about a minute when 2 others finished charging and drove off, so nobody was really inconvenienced.
As opposed to cheap ass Tuesday for the petrol people.
Yes,
all out
as
on the
opposed
road
to-
and all that.
Yep.
Every
There
week.
was there was an overstayer in Donnybrook as well, about 15 minutes, fully charged.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, there was
Right.
probably worst case scenario. It was a beautiful sunny Easter weekend, thousands of people on the road, and it seemed to cope okay. No horror stories that I could find.
Hey, Harold, there's a charging question at the bottom of the chat if you want to answer that. It's the
Okay. So the question is it better to charge the new Model 3 to 100% all the time, or is it better to only go to 80% all of the time? Okay. The question is, it depends. So if it's a standard range Model 3, then Tesla recommends that you set the slider to 100%. And in fact, it actually asks that you charge the car to 100% periodically. For simplicity, Tesla says just slide it to 100%. And if your routine is you arrive home and plug your car in at night time, then just continue doing so. If you want to incessantly look after your battery to the maximum of to its utmost, then what you can do is charge it 100% one night, and then maybe leave it for a few days until the battery goes down to, say, 40 or 50% or something like that, and then charge it back up to 100%, and sort of rinse and repeat that. So rather than charging it to 100% every night, do it, say, weekly, provided that's compatible with your lifestyle. But if you do just have this routine of plugging it in all the time, then that's totally fine, because the difference in actual degradation or the loss of capacity over several years, over your years of ownership of the car, will be very, very slight. If your car, on the other hand, is a long-range new Model 3 or Y, and also if I'll just try and bring up if your car, when you look at the slider that actually can select what state of charge you want your battery charged to, if it has the words daily and trip on it, then you should routinely limit charging on a daily basis to 80%, which is where the marker says daily. And then you'll see to the right of the word daily, at the 100% mark, is the word trip. And that's recommended to only charge 100% on a trip. Now, you can have a trip every day, but the trick is to try and get it to 100% and start consuming that top part of the battery quite promptly. This is for cars that have the word daily and trip on the charging screen, not for the LFP cars, the standard range newer cars that don't have that wording. But again, even if it doesn't have the wording, absolute best practice is go to 100% once a week or so, and then let it sort of go down naturally, use it for a few days, and then plug it back in whenever you sort of get round to it, and charge it back up to 100%. If you do go on a long trip though, or a holiday, and you're not going to use your car, then the best practice is, depending on how you want to use it when you get back, is you could set the slider anywhere from 80 down to 50%. 50 is the lowest you can set it, and leave your car plugged in the whole time, because it'll only ever actually, and it doesn't matter if your car started nearly full, you can, if you wanted to, set the slider to 50%, plug it in, and leave it on. Then the car will slowly lose charge naturally for normal reasons, such as Sentry Mode is on, or cabin overheat protection is on if the car's in sunlight, or it's a hot day. And it also does use a little bit sort of on a daily basis while you're away. Then the car will happily sort of slowly drift down to the level you set, and then stay maintained on a daily basis. And like I think I said a couple of weeks ago, I've seen my cars, they'll basically take 4 sips a day roughly, because there's like a slight bit of hysteresis, and that's fine. And that's all you need to do. But just go by Tess's recommendation, 100% all day, every day, if you like, on the standard range, and 80% all day, every day on the long range cars. Alrighty, and I was going to look something up. Can't remember what it was. Never mind. It'll come to me. Oh, we've also got from the Department of Transport, the West Australian electric vehicle licensing data. Unfortunately, the department's a bit slow, so they've only managed to create the December 2024 quarter. But at the end of last year, there were 29,869 licensed EVs in WA, and that's 29, let's call it 30,000 out of about 2.1 million. So 1.41%, so square root of 2% of licensed light vehicles were EVs. And out of the total 47,390 new vehicles licensed in the December quarter, nearly 8% were EVs. And they even have a breakdown. Oh, no, so the wheat belt exhibited a relatively high growth rate of EVs during the quarter, which is good to see. I think part of that might be to do with the WAV network having a little bit of an influence in the wheat belt. and they actually do have a breakdown of suburbs. I think, yeah, here we go. So you can see the top postcodes there, which is sort of interesting. So this is something we might pop up on our website so anyone can have a squiz, and we might stick it on our Facebook page for anyone to have a look at. So EVs are obviously getting there slowly. Alrighty, any more questions or comments? As I see now on the pre-open, Tesla is at 7.55% up, which is good to see. And I think the market's going to open in about 16 minutes. So that's a good thing for us long-term investors with a short attention span.
Oh, that's me.
Oh, alrighty, so any questions or comments before otherwise we might wrap up this awesome show?
There's another question on charging in the chat, Harold.
When I charge at home, 10 amp UMC plug, the highest I can select is 8 amp on the Tesla app. Yes, okay. All right, so DJ, so what this is, I'm presuming you've got a fairly new car, and there's a bit of a configuration error for the actual, when you look at the tail, you plug a 10 amp or a 15 amp tail into your UMC, and it's actually a little bit of electronics inside. Oh, first week, awesome. So inside the actual head of the plug is a little a semiconductor chip that has two functions. It firstly tells the UMC what kind of tail it is. So it actually tells it that I am a 10 amp, 15 amp, whatever type of tail. And it also has a small temperature sensor as part of the chip as well, so that the UMC can read the temperature of the plug head to make sure it's not overheating. Now, the way you fix your 8 amp issue, I presume if you look at the tail and if you've got good eyes or a magnifying glass, you can see, hopefully we'll see that it says 10 amps, 250 volt, 10 amps. Provided it says that, and it should, the way you fix it is, say if your car is at 80, 90, 100% set of charge or something like that, 70%. What you do is you lower your charge, your desired charge level to below your current battery state of charge, providing the battery is higher than 50%. So you could say lower it down to 50%, plug your UMC in with its power on, just plug it in, close the doors of the car, just walk away for a few minutes, then come back. You can then unplug the charger. You can set the charge limit back to whatever you wanted. And when you plug it back in, it should now be fixed. So that's all you need to do. Set the desired state of charge to lower than your battery's got. Plug it in, close the doors, walk away, wait a couple of minutes, come back, should be fixed. And if it's not, let us know next week. But that should fix it. And you can just sort of do that, immediately. But just have a quick look to make sure. I don't have a tail on me, but just look between the active and neutral. It's sort of, there's a little bit of writing in between all the pins in the center. And as long as that says 10 amps, then you'll be good to go. You'll probably also notice, if you've got a 15 amp outlet, that the 15 amp plug will probably put out 12 amps. The error that's occurred is, in America, their electrical wiring laws say that if you plug in a long-term load, you have to derate the load by 20%. You can only draw 80% of the maximum rated current. In Australia, all our Australian plugs are rated for 100% duty cycle long term. So you are entitled to pull out 10 amps from a 10 amp outlet indefinitely. So it's just an error, and sadly it's an error that Tesla seems to be persistently doing. It's anyway. Like I said, it can be fixed easily at home, or even if you're away.
Just one thing there, Harold. If that doesn't work, I do remember seeing something in the Facebook group a couple of weeks ago. Somebody had got a new UMC and they tried doing that and it didn't work. And there was an update from them later on to say that there was something going on at the moment that that fix wasn't working, and they actually had to take it to Tesla to get it changed or to get it fixed. I don't know if that's been resolved or if that was just a temporary thing, but just something to flag. It was a few weeks ago I saw it. And yeah, I think they said something about there was a temporary some issue that fix wasn't working. And Tesla had to do it for them.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, DJ, yeah, if it doesn't work yourself, yeah, just take it to Tesla and they will fix it. Or they might just swap out the tail. I'm not sure what they do exactly, but that'll get resolved. But a little pro tip, if you have any issues, my son's car does this. If it's a hot day and the PowerPoint is 45 years old, if it gets a bit warm, the UMC actually does protect itself, or it protects the house by reducing power. So I've actually seen his car charging at sort of 5 amps instead of 10 amps, and that's because it's getting a bit hot. So some tips are, for example, if you've got an exterior PowerPoint that's on a north-facing wall without shade and it's a hot day and the actual plug top is in direct sunlight, that can artificially heat the plug and reduce its output. And I guess one solution to that is put a bit of shade on it. You can put like a bit of cloth or something over it, a light colored cloth, just to keep the sun off it, if you have any issues, or if anyone has any issues with the UMC. Alrighty. Any other questions or final questions or comments before we go? Oh, I think we're all good. Alrighty. So, Pete, how would you take out an awesome show like this, as if I didn't already know?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve, the abundant curve.
And the best way to do that is join Tokwa, buy a Tesla, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and abundance. Alrighty, have a wonderful week, everyone, and I really do look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Uh-oh.